everyone. Welcome to The Hydrant. With me today is Carlana Stone. She is an author, an international speaker, Emmy-nominated award-winning television producer. She's done a ton of stuff. She's a certified scuba diver in the Grand Caymans. She's gone on road trips in her custom-built Harley. She's cross-country. She's piloted an airplane solo. She's jumped out of an airplane. And oh, by the way, she accomplished all this confined to a wheelchair after an accident when she was 17 that left her a paraplegic. So this woman is just the epitome of don't tell me I can't do it. I'm going to do it. She's the author of a book of Never Give In, Never Give Up. And she founded the Courage Community in 2006. Yeah, it goes on and on. So I am so honored and thrilled. She's been on every talk show on TV and the planet. I'm honored and thrilled to have her here, unscripted and unapologetic. Welcome to the show.
For one of the few times in my life, I'm speechless.
Oh, wow.
No, it's interesting to thank you first and foremost for golly, for this opportunity, for your Rock of Gibraltar staying power, man. It's like, just riding the crazy Carlana hurricane,
We've tried to do this a couple times and it's been crazy.
Yeah, and I don't even know what gave me this blessing, how this blessing came about. You just popped into my life, man. You're like just a magic capsule that cracked open, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's like something you have to do. And part of my taking so long to actually schedule something with you and see it through has been me making excuses and using my environment to kind of well this is a truth, but it's only like a half truth, because part of me has been like paralyzed with fear to actually dive in here with you and just be what I profess to be. And so you're forcing me into a really awesome, honest
situation.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about that for a minute, because, and I'm using my own experiences, because there are things that, for example, let's take a concrete example. Flying petrifies me. I mean, just absolutely petrified. You've done all these things and you've been able to bust through, obviously, any fears or anything else that you've had. How? If someone said to you, hey, I really want to learn how to fly a plane, but I'm scared to death to do it, what would you say to them?
I would say that's a sign to do it. Fear, like the Art of War.
Right.
Stephen Pressfield. He said,
the War of Art.
Are you paralyzed with fear? Well, you know what? If so, that's a good thing, because it tells you what you've got to do. And so sometimes it's like, fear and avoidance work together. And it's like, we avoid the things we fear the things that we avoid, so it's like, well, let's just drive straight, fly straight into the eye of the storm. And that's where like freedom resides. And, it takes a lifetime to get here, and, I'll be here again for the first time, soon. It's like a place we revisit, as we're like working our way up the hill.
Of all the things that you've accomplished, and it's just the one that sticks out to me, because I just think it's so cool, is doing the custom built Harley on road trips. I mean, it's just, that to me is just about as fun as it gets. As these things came up to you, whether it was flying the plane or the Harley or scuba diving, did these things just kind of pop up in your life at the time, or was it something you always had kind of in the back of your mind and said, well, I'm not going to let this wheelchair stop me. I'm going to go ahead and do these things anyway?
Mm, good question, because here we get into the, oh wow, yeah, but we get into a whole host, a really deep conversation, because we're talking about invisible shrapnel, right? That the stuff you don't see that keeps us down, that keeps
Mhm.
us. And so my Harley, everything from its design to just to the idea of building a dream, right?
Mhm.
It was a community effort. It was something
Mhm.
that started with, I can't walk, but I want to ride, and I want to be in that driver's seat. I want to be in control, and I want to have this unlimited view of the world. I want to have that full 360, where it's like
Right.
the and access to that and that freedom. And this is actually a good story. When the whole community, I was living in Glendale, California at the time. This is 2009. Well, I don't know. It was my 40th birthday. I was born in 1968. Did the math. It was 2008. I guess, or whatever. 2008. I was married, living in Glendale, California. Um, my husband is brilliant. The ex-husband is a brilliant drummer. Oh my God!
Oh, cool.
Post-production sound engineer, pilot. He's my inspiration for so much, and it's like he has no idea like what he's got inside of him, and it's like, oh my God. Anyway, he showed me what was inside of me, right? Like from
Mhm.
this like engineering standpoint, right? Where it's like, oh, wait a minute, let's figure this out. We can problem solve. I mean, the guy designed circuit boards for so there was like this, I don't know, this desire to take on any, well, I'll tell you when it started. Was my first time out of rehab. Meaning I was paralyzed at 16, right?
Right.
And I was a gymnast, I was a cheerleader, it's like had an ass you could bounce a quarter off of, right? I mean, my entire identity, you've heard me say it, before, whatever. It's like was based on my physical capability, and
Right.
when your identity, when those labels, when those stigmas and all that kind of stuff attached to that limited word,
View.
you're
Limited
not
view.
good enough, you don't
Yeah.
belong here, and it echoes everything that you're feeling inside, and it's echoed throughout the environment. And with circa 1985, there weren't a lot of people in wheelchairs,
Right.
especially 16-year-olds, that were out and integrated into public and actually doing anything. They were all people who were just like, oh, wow, you know,
'Cause that
what
carried
a
it on
freak.
at that time, that carried its own stigma, not only from that age level, sure, from a peer standpoint for you, but in society in general, that it was just you're just starting to pay attention to that just a little bit.
Yeah, well, 16 is a very impressionable age.
Mm.
And for whatever reason, when I wrote and published my book, I lied. I was still in hiding then,
Mm.
right? It was like I said I was 17. Little things that don't really matter, but it was all about like my level of honesty with myself and who I am and being in touch with that.
Right.
And that's where the freedom resides, right? And so I'm really excited at this phase of my life, because I know who I am.
Right.
I know why I'm here, and I have a path and a platform to pull it off. And it's like, oh my God. So breaking out of that self-imposed inertia, that self-imposed paralysis, is stuff we don't see, right? That connects
Right.
us all. So anyway, I can remember going out of rehab the very first time that, this is, like I said, 1985. And then, oh my God, my dad, my whole family take us out we go out to dinner in Dallas. That's where I was, Dallas Rehab
Right.
Institute. And we pull up to the valet, and my dad pulls into the center lane. And there are three lanes to the valet here, right? My dad pulls into the center lane, opens all four doors, right? And my family's jumping out. We don't do anything in a quiet way. My dad's like, "Hey, got a wheelchair in the trunk." I'm going, oh my God. And I'm like, I've got this turtle shell of a brace, like
Right.
I'm just learning balance, I'm like lost some of my faculties and I'm, but summoning the courage and the skill set of a gymnast, right? On a
Right.
balance beam. So I've got this literally and metaphorically, I've got this board that was, I don't know, about 3 feet long
Right.
that I would scoot across at that point, like I would get out of to get out of the car, my dad makes this big parade and, brings the wheelchair around and I've got to inch across the 3-foot board in
Right.
from the car seat into the wheelchair. But at my 1 o'clock,
Right.
this kind of thing that I'm going, I could see the line. I could see the line of people like waiting for
Waiting.
their cars because we have blocked all 3 lanes,
Lanes.
and I'm telling myself, as I mentioned across this board, it was an eternity. I'm like, don't look up, don't look up, don't look up, don't look up. So what did I do? I looked up, right? And I look up and I meet this woman's gaze about 1 o'clock. And for the first time in my life, I became an object of pity. I had engendered a look of pity from somebody, much like I had given, because I've got this heart of an empath, where I just, oh my God, but I never wanted to be on the receiving end of that, I wanted to
Right.
be on the giving end. And it was like, oh my God, it was the hands down most paralyzing moment of my life because I felt less than, I felt apart from, I felt like, oh my God, freak on parade, right?
Mm-hmm.
Freak on display. And so for the better part of my life, I broke out of that metaphorical cage and just wanted to prove to the world that these physical barriers don't define me. I can't walk, but I can fly. So that's where the learning to fly,
Right.
learning to escape all these barriers. But I never, ever addressed what I was feeling inside. I
Right.
became a television producer, right, in Los Angeles. I mean, I made a career out of it, and it was because I was starved for a way to connect with people. And so, exchanging our stories, we discovered so much about ourselves that it's like, oh, we're not so different after all, And
Right.
we all have this invisible shrapnel. And
Well, I'm going to say you've
yeah.
used that term twice, and I find it fascinating when because I've never heard it before. When you say invisible shrapnel, give me a good example of what that is.
Oh man, it's like it's the stuff you don't see. It is like the guilt, the shame,
Okay.
the feeling less than, not a part of, a lack of belonging.
Right.
It is a basic fundamental human need to be a part of something, and you discover something that doesn't change about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But I ran from it. I can't walk, but I ran real quick, real fast. I ran, and
Well, there's got to be
avoided.
a certain level of just denial
No,
that it's like this isn't me. I'm and as you were talking about before, fear of having to look and face this,
yeah,
whatever it happens to
yeah,
be.
yeah, yeah. And in tune with like what like you have to be honest with yourself. And I kept myself so busy that I was hiding under the shroud of labels, Hollywood producer. So everybody from Shreveport, it's like, oh yeah, oh, she's gone off to LA and become a Hollywood producer. And I was like, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about myself, And living in Russia, it was like, oh, she's the Amerikanskaya, it's like, so I, without intention, kind of set myself up to be heralded by these labels that were umbrellas, like a place I
Right.
could hide, right? Yeah.
So
And I only
so
recognize this in retrospect, but yeah.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. At one point, did you say, or was there a specific instance that happened, or did it just kind of come upon you that it's like, wow, I've done all this stuff, but there's something going on in here I haven't paid attention to, and it's starting to eat at me. What was something? Was there something that triggered that and got you on a path to more self discovery?
That's a brilliant question. Um, I'll tell you, it was a surprise, serendipitous discovery when I moved from California back down south of the Mason Dixon line and realized the person that I had conjured up all these years, saw myself through that eyes because those eyes. I don't even know how to explain it. It was like I kind of avoided it for so long that it
Mm-hmm.
became, you know, I fooled myself. I tricked myself. Or definitely put safety measures, but I didn't do it intentionally in the moment. It was like a form of survival. It was
Mm-hmm.
like whatever you have to do to make it happen. But you know, and part of that avoidance was avoiding anybody else in wheelchairs, avoiding anybody else with special
Mm,
needs or whatever you want to call it, because I ain't one of them. I don't want to be one of them. I don't want to confirm what I'm feeling in my heart that I don't belong here and that this, because it was a veneer that I was looking through. It was
right.
a personal, and it started with how I saw myself. And so moving down south of the Mason Dixon line, this was after, I got a divorce and moved downtown Los Angeles from Glendale. My ex-husband and I are like, better friends we've ever been.
Right.
And yeah, but we grew a lot together. He oh my God, he's a gift. Anyway, moving down south, and it was like, I just kind of like cast my sail and let the wind carry me,
Right.
and I put my stuff in storage in downtown LA, and I went to go see my mom and daddy in Florida and had a gig down in Boca somewhere, and then, stopped back in Austin. And I was like, ooh, I like this place. This is a good place to decompress, right? Like as I'm coming back down into the buckle of the Bible Belt,
Mm-hmm.
which is where I am right now. Oh, yeah. I mean, the buckle, and it's, it's tied tight. But these are my roots.
Right.
Um, and deep roots matter, right? Relationships. And this whole community came behind me and my family and opened doors and opportunities and for travel, for connections, for education, Anyway, it's just like, wow. And it's something I've taken for granted my whole life. I was raised in the vortex of love.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with that there was an intimacy, there was a foundation from which I could draw from my family, that my mom and dad specifically. But going back to the Harley thing, and then we'll go to my parents or my family if you want. But the Harley thing, I want you to like try to juxtapose that being on display in the valet
Right.
and this woman's gaze just burned in my memory, right?
Right.
Um, that said, you are less than. How's anybody going to love you? It's going to take a special man to love you. All these things that my environment echoed back, but I realized it was like a mere reflection of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
That the reason I would recognize this woman today is because I look at her every day in the mirror. And until, you can actually look her in the eye, it's like, it is like a crazy neuroscience that happens. Like, when you dive right into your fear, right into the root, you get to the root of what's giving you all this anxiety, this inability to focus, so all these initials, ADHD, TBI, spinal cord injury, all these different things. And it's like,
and you can have all those.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because that's up at this level, but it still doesn't address the core.
Right.
And at what point did you look at that person in the mirror and say, what can I do now? What do I do now? How do I get past all this? And what do I do?
Yeah. Well, I got there in Austin when I moved to Austin, and I'm like, people look at me differently. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. And it's like there was it was a different experience where I felt like, and I think it was because I was getting closer to myself, to my roots, to the root of the issue, right? Where I had to be courageous enough to come home to a place where I cannot hide. These people knew me before and after, and it's like there's this, and they love me anyway.
That look of pity. What happens now for you when someone gives you that look? Or do they anymore?
No. See, what I was trying to articulate, and sometimes I have a hard time communicating what's so vibrant in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
What I've come to realize is that woman's gaze was a mere reflection of how I saw myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like this bright light on, this is how you see yourself, an object of pity. I don't belong here. Things that I had adopted just because they were part of the fabric of the environment in which I was raised, and what I saw out in the environment. I didn't see people in wheelchairs that were game changers and orchestrating things, to go to Artemis, to return to the moon. Right. I mean, like I never thought of it, I never thought of using, that our hardships make us stronger, and that oh man, yeah. It truly was about how I saw myself, and so it's an interesting thing. It's a whole paradigm shift,
right?
When you get to a point where you're like, I know who I am, and I'm just good, and so I've got love to give, and if I just let that guide me, everything else just it sounds crazy and whatever, but it is like there's a neuroscience to it. There's this aspect of just like, oh my God, surrender, and flying right into the eye of the storm, and confronting your fears, and like doing this with you, because it's like, and you kept saying in your emails, no preparation needed, it's like, hi. And so I can avoid it, or I can, and I've just been so blessed with opportunity, but to bring it back to, like, this is a paralysis, self-imposed paralyses that I kept reinforced over every single decision I made in my life. So it was going there and going to the grocery store and being so adamant. Like, I did grocery shopping, and I put the groceries in the trunk, not my tires, but the groceries, and would have people come up to me in the grocery store going, "Oh wow, you're such an inspiration." I'm like, whatever, But there was this moment that I was driving from, like, I was riding from Pasadena on 210 and back to Glendale, and I mean, I know right where I was, and there was this man with his, like, I don't know, 10 or 12-year-old son in the passenger seat. I mean, it's like an interstate. It's like a 4 or 5 lane highway, going this way, and I looked over, and the image that I saw was like this boy, like, and the dad was pointing. And for the first time in my life, for the first time that I could remember, it was like, oh, he's pointing out that I'm in a wheelchair and that I can do. And I imagined in my mind that he was telling his son, hey, look, she's obviously in a wheelchair. You can do anything, you know?
Mm.
And all of a sudden I became like, so grateful. I don't even know how to put words to it. But I'm like, okay, so I'm revealing a little bit about myself instead of, showing sport in the wheelchair. And
It's a new perspective.
Yeah. It was a new lead instead of hiding behind it. I've always used the story, in connecting with other people, but it was a moment in time that changed my perspective, that I go back and I call on that for inspiration,
Right.
To keep me in the present moment and to keep me, whatever fearless means. Fearless just means you're willing to go back in the fear and fall down and get back up, fall down and get back up.
So let me ask
Yeah.
one question before we
Yeah.
get into the bizarre questions. We've talked about your past and what you were feeling and the different things that went on. So, and this is probably an unfair question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
No, the more unfair, the better.
Who is Carlana Stone now?
Carlana Stone now as a spark plug is the first thing that came to mind. That was the first thing that came to mind. I'm a maverick. That was how somebody alluded to me yesterday, man. I'm a rolling stone. I am.
Yes.
I know who I am. I know who I am, and I am a conduit. I'm a pipeline. I'm a relationship expert. I'm the Sissy and Dave Stone's daughter. I'm a product of my environment. I'm home to pay homage to that,
Right.
and say that deep roots matter, man. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I am here as a gravitational lens to show the impact of community engagement and people coming together. General Schwarzkopf told me, you can't help a man up a hill without getting a little further up there yourself. And it's like, I come from a community of service members. I had no idea of the legacy of my mom and dad, because you're going back to that vortex of love.
Right.
It's like that everything that they were trickled into this community, and I see it live and on location and lit up everywhere I go here, and in every single, I feel their influence, and it's in a living legacy. It's I'm excited to, this community provided a launching pad for me, right? It impacted the whole trajectory of my life.
Let me ask you some of these ridiculous questions and see what kind of answers we come up, because I never know. What advice would you give yourself at age 15?
I would tell myself that you're in charge of how people treat you. And we show people how to treat us. And it stems from something so deep inside of us that requires a connection, right?
Right.
And embrace that. I would say, if you're feeling scared, dive right into it. I mean, just go straight into it, because that's where the magic happens. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Cool. What pizza topping best represents you?
Oh gosh. A sweep the kitchen. Sweep the kitchen. That's actually a name of sweep the swamp. No, sweep the kitchen. Yeah, a little bit of everything.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. That's actually a Johnny's Pizza. It's a local, thing that I grew up with. Yeah, yeah, we used to.
I
Yeah,
never heard that before, but that's
Sweep the
cool. I like
Kitchen.
the
It's like,
name. Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
It's a little bit of everything in
I like that. Who would play you in a movie about your life?
it. Whoever you can talk into doing it.
Who would you want to do it?
Hmm. I know you've asked other people that before because I've seen.
Yeah.
I don't know where this came from, but Deborah Winger.
You know, that's a definite possibility.
Hmm.
Yeah, I could
I
see
don't
her
even
doing
know.
that.
That's so weird. I don't know where I came up with that. And Meryl Streep, of course, is. But we don't have anything in common. There's just. But Deborah Winger came out of left field.
Yeah,
Yeah. But yeah.
that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your favorite curse word?
Uh,
You can say it. These are rated R, so I'm not worried.
Fuck the F word, man. It's like you can use it as a noun, you can use it as a verb, you can use it as a. It's just like the universal. Fuck. Yeah, yeah. That's my favorite.
That's cool. If you were an ice cream flavor, what would you be?
First place I went chocolate and peanut butter. Baskin Robbins. I used to go to Baskin Robbins to get peanut butter chocolate. Chocolate ice cream with chunks of peanut butter.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, you could chew on them. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. What song should play every time you walk into a room?
The Game of Love. The Queen, the Game of Love. I don't know. That's just the first thing that came to mind, and so I'm trying to stick to that.
Wow, that's cool. I haven't even thought of that song in years and years, but that would be a good song.
It's a good one.
What's the weirdest thing you've tried food-wise?
One of the coolest things I ate was while I was in Russia. The coolest thing, spoonfuls of beluga caviar. Like there was a mason jar full of beluga caviar when I was living in Russia. Seroja had an uncle who was a sturgeon fisherman, man, and he would like bring literally a mason jar of this stuff. And yeah, I would say that, but also while I was living over there was this the black eggs. It was the only time in my life I've ever had these things. They bury these eggs in the ground for like, I don't know, for forever. I need to research that. But yeah, I remember.
Huh.
Yeah, it was
that.
fascinating. Yeah, and they would, they had to be there for like decades or something, right? And so it was like a big delicacy kind of thing. And they would pull these eggs out of the ground that had been buried in the ground, and they were like black eggs. And so like the whites, like when you boil an egg, you got the center yolk,
Right.
the yolk, the yolk. That all that other stuff was like this platinum color,
Wow.
this black, yeah, and it had such an interesting flavor. There's like pretty much nothing I won't try, specifically food wise.
Right.
There's pretty much.
I'm gonna give you two things. You tell me what your preference is of the two things. While we're talking about eggs, omelet or scrambled?
Oh gosh, omelet. I like scrambled too. I gotta pick one. Depends on the day. Depends on the day.
And I get that a lot. A lot of people say it depends on what mood I'm in to do that. So.
Depends what I've got inside the refrigerator. Like I'm thinking, I got some asparagus. I could make a really good omelet. Yeah.
Texting or calling?
Oh God, calling.
Toilet paper, over or under?
Oh, over. Come on now. I used to go change my friend Ed Nyrick, right, from Boulder. Oh my God, Eddie. He had this obsession with, putting the toilet paper over, so it was like, you're pulling down, not pulling up, and it's, counterproductive. But I never even thought about it. I never even like it was never on my radar until I met Ed Nyrick, you know, and he's yeah, and he passed away a few years ago, and he is he's a dear friend from college, and we all like remember him and have great fun things. And so when we had the memorial service for, we all got together in Connecticut, and I was going around to every place that we would go and making sure that the toilet paper, there was like, that it was coming from the top. I mean, they're just, yeah. People who open your eyes to things that you never thought about, your attention to detail. Like, it's just like, wow.
Summer or winter?
I'm going to go summer.
Cake or pie?
Oh, pie. Gold brick. My mama's gold brick pie.
What?
My mama's gold brick pie.
What is gold brick pie?
Gold brick pie is, oh God, it just tastes like love, right? It's like, and it's chocolate flavored love. I mean, it's like a chocolate mousse pie that like it calls for like all this butter and sugar and cocoa, but the eggs, each egg you have to beat for 5 minutes. And I can remember as a child, my mama would beat each one of those eggs for 5 minutes. And if you don't, it's not going to come out right. It was right. Like she would beat each one of those. And I swear you could taste every ounce of love she poured into it. And she still, it's awesome. Yeah. Gold brick pie. It's like a chocolate mousse kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay. Would you rather have telekinesis, the ability to move things with your mind, or telepathy, the ability to read people's minds?
Telekinesis, because I already have the
other. Okay. It's probably don't want to spread that
you
around.
You can't bullshit a bullshitter, is all I'm saying. Looking in the eye, yeah.
Yep.
Different kind of thing.
Okay. Would you rather have to eat only broccoli for the rest of your life or be forced to watch an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians every day?
I love broccoli.
I would go the same route. I'm sorry.
No, I seriously do. I love broccoli. You can use broccoli. You can eat it raw. You can, boil it. Or you can steam it and put butter on it, and a little garlic, salt, and pepper, and all that good stuff. I mean, you can do so much with broccoli. You can make a broccoli cheddar cheese soup. I mean,
there you go.
Yeah. The broccoli. I'm going to go with broccoli.
Would you rather have whatever you are thinking appear in a bubble above your head for everyone to see, or have absolutely everything you do be live streamed for everyone to watch?
Everything to be live streamed, baby, because that's
we're essentially doing it now anyway. So
it's kind of like, going right into the, eye of the storm, or the source of the fear. And, that's just kind of like, okay, well, it's not so bad. Actually, what I was cooking up in my mind is much more catastrophic than the reality, right?
And I think that's true for everybody. I know it's true for me that nothing is anywhere near what we imagine is 95% worse than reality. So it's
always,
I guess the big word is, and you hear this a lot these days, is like the more vulnerable you can be, the better off you're going to be. So.
It's true, because you end up giving yourself license, and it's like, oh my God, all these things that like, that's where I am in my life right now, is coming out from underneath all these things, that labels and impressions and, parts of my identity that change with the wind, to be perfectly honest, but make such a huge impact that, if not dealt with it. So coming out from underneath all this stuff, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, what took me so long, but I'm no longer kicking myself for taking so long.
Right.
Does that make sense? It's like,
yeah. Because that can be, if you start living your life by regrets, that's you're just gonna, it's not gonna work. So So I'm
Well,
happy you're at the new Carlana Stone.
once again. No, but I want to thank you specifically because in your email, in the language that you use, in our few
Mm,
correspondence, um, you know, in each of those emails, or what really resonated with me, it was like it was giving me permission to just show up and be me,
mm,
and it was echoed each time you and I had to reschedule, or
mm.
and it was like sent to me, and it was just like. And so coming into this today, I was like so nervous because I'm like, oh man, it's like it's there's a quote by Martin Luther King that said, "You can only lead a man to the depths of your own transformation." And that quote has inspired me, but it's haunted me, right? And driven me to action. And having people like you and my force field, I'm just so humbled that I was invited into this experience.
Thank you for doing this and being a part of this. I am just thrilled to death that you were here today. And if you want to learn more about Carlana, and who wouldn't, you go to carlanastone.info, and she's got a website. It's got all sorts of stuff on there, so you'll find out about everything. Thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you again next time on The Hype.
Right on. Thank you, man. This is like...